Move it, old man. Some of us have jobs. He did not answer, just wiped the mirror and opened the door. Same boots, same silence every day. But that morning, a SEAL recruit impressed. Cams froze mid-step on the driver's forearm, barely visible beneath years of sun and skin, was a tattoo no rookie could mistake. The SEAL trident. The recruit snapped to attention. The driver, he just muttered. Clock's ticking, sailor. And the whole bus went silent. If you believe real legends do not need introductions, share your thoughts and comment below. Bus 12 arrives at precisely 5:45 every morning, regardless of weather or season. The driver, mid-70s, weathered face, eyes like distant thunderclouds, never varies his routine. Wipe mirrors, check gauges, open door, close door, drive. No good morning, no small talk about the weather. Just the steady rhythm of a man who treats public transportation like a tactical operation. His name badge reads Thomas, though no one calls him that. To the other drivers at the depot, he is old-timer or boots, a reference to the heavy military-style footwear he wears despite company-issued uniforms. His jacket, faded navy blue, bears no patches or insignia, yet somehow sits on his frame with unmistakable authority. Surprised they have not forced him to retire, mutters Davis, a younger driver, as they watch Thomas methodically inspect his vehicle during the morning check. Probably cannot even see over the steering wheel anymore. Thomas's left sleeve remains permanently rolled to just below the elbow, not high enough to be unprofessional, but enough to cool his forearm, or perhaps for another reason entirely. He is like a machine, Davis continues. Same route, same face. Probably dreams in bus schedules. What the depot manager knows, but rarely mentions, is that Thomas has never been late. Not once in 12 years. Not during the blizzard of 18. Not during the downtown flood. Not even when the transit union went on strike and half the fleet called in sick. This morning, as Route 12 ran through the Naval Base District, a young man in crisp camis boards. His posture is ramrod straight. His haircut fresh enough to smell the barber's talcum powder. Good morning, sir. The recruit says, military courtesy, automatic in his bearing. Thomas's eyes flick. Briefly to the rearview mirror, then back to the road. No response. The recruit takes a seat near the front, one of only 3 passengers this early. He watches the driver's movements with growing curiosity. The way Thomas's eyes constantly scan the mirrors. The precise, economical gestures as he shifts gears. The almost imperceptible adjustment of his posture before each turn. At the Market Street stop, an elderly woman struggles to board with grocery bags. One splits, spilling apples across the steps. Without a word, Thomas sets the brake, powers down the door, and kneels to gather the fruit. His movements are efficient, deliberate. When done, he simply nods at the woman's flustered thanks and returns to his seat. The recruit's eyes narrow. Something about this man does not fit the profile of a career bus driver. As the morning progresses and the bus fills with commuters, most passengers barely glance at Thomas. They tap phones, doze against windows, or stare vacantly through the glass. They see him, the gray hair, the weathered hands on the wheel, but they do not notice him, but the recruit does. He catalogs each detail. The callus is visible on Thomas's hands. The way he scans each new passenger with a subtle but thorough assessment. The posture that never slumps despite the 3-hour shift. When the recruit disembarks at the training facility, he pauses briefly at the steps. Thank you for the ride, sir. Thomas's eyes meet his for a fraction of a second, then return to the road ahead. The next morning dawns clear and bright. When the recruit boards bus 12 again, fewer passengers crowd the aisles. He takes the same seat near the front, this time deliberately positioning himself where the rising sun streams through the windows. As Thomas maneuvers through a turn, sunlight catches his forearm at precisely the right angle. There, partially hidden beneath weather-worn skin and faded with age, the unmistakable outline of a trident, anchor, and eagle, the SEAL insignia. The recruit's breath catches. He waits until the next stop clears the few remaining passengers from the front section before leaning slightly forward. Sir, he says quietly, voice pitched for Thomas's ears alone. Were you in? The question hangs in the air between them. The engine hums. A traffic light changes from red to green. Finally, without turning. I was. 2 words, nothing more. But the recruit leans back, understanding the weight behind them. For the remainder of the ride, neither speaks. The The silence feels different now. Not the emptiness of strangers sharing space, but the mutual recognition of a shared brotherhood, separated only by time. Word travels quickly in military circles. By that afternoon, messages flutter across group chats and barracks conversations. The old guy driving bus 12. Former frogman. You sure? Harper saw the trident, said the driver confirmed. Within days, a post appears on a Navy subreddit. There is a legend driving bus 12 in Coronado. Recognize the ink. Anyone know his story? Retired Chief Petty Officer. Marcus Denton sees the post. Something tugs at his memory. A name from decades ago. Stories whispered during deployments. He makes a call to an old teammate now working at the Pentagon. That weekend, Thomas's usual half-empty morning bus arrives at the naval base to find a line of 8 recruits waiting in perfect formation. They board silently, each nodding respectfully. One, forgetting himself, begins to raise his hand in salute before catching himself. Thomas's expression never changes, but his eyes hold each young face a moment longer than necessary. On Monday, Lieutenant Colonel James Westfield, Naval Intelligence Officer and SEAL historian, boards Bus 12 in full-dress uniform. The handful of recruits already seated immediately stand. Westfield walks past them to the front of the bus. He stands directly beside Thomas, waiting until the door closes. "Sir," he says, voice clear in the hushed interior. "Permission to ride." Thomas exhales slowly, his eyes meeting Westfield's for the first time. "You got a seat, Colonel." Westfield sits directly behind the driver. After several minutes of silence, he speaks again, voice pitched low. "I reviewed the files. Commander Griggs. Thomas Griggs. SEAL Team 2. 3 tours. Bronze Star with Valor. Missing in action twice, then found. Both times you completed your mission despite injuries." Thomas's knuckles whitened slightly on the steering wheel. "That man retired a long time ago, Colonel. With respect, sir, that is not how it works. You know that better than most." Later that day, Westfield confirms what rumors had only suggested. Bus 12's silent driver is former Commander Thomas Griggs, once one of the most effective SEAL team leaders in Vietnam. His missions remain largely classified, but his reputation among those who know is unassailable. His presence on a municipal bus route raises questions. Westfield does not ask aloud. Some men choose peace in unlikely places. By Wednesday, Thomas's first morning pickup at the naval base includes 15 people, all military, all standing in disciplined silence as the bus approaches. As they board, each nods respectfully. No one speaks. Thomas drives his route exactly as he always has. Precise, focused, silent. But when they reach the training facility, he catches the eye of the original recruit in the rearview mirror. "Harper," he says, the name of surprise on his lips. "Maintain your situational awareness during night exercises. That is where most recruits fail." Harper blinks, stunned at both being recognized and receiving advice. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." As the recruits file out, Thomas returns his gaze to the road. His sleeve remains rolled to the same precise position, not hiding the tattoo anymore, but not displaying it either. Some truths do not need announcement. They simply are. If you would stand up for the quiet heroes around you like this, drop a word of respect below. The story of Commander Griggs spreads through naval circles like a current in deep water, invisible from the surface, but powerful beneath. Within 2 weeks, every military member in the coastal town knows the silent man driving Bus 12 once led operations that still appear as redacted pages in combat histories. A local news reporter, tipped off by a retired serviceman, attempts to interview Thomas as he completes his end-of-shift checks. "Commander Griggs, we would love to do a feature on your service and your current." "No interviews," Thomas interrupts, continuing his methodical inspection. And it is just Thomas now. The reporter persists. "Your story could inspire a lot of people, sir, especially young sailors." Thomas straightens, looking directly at the reporter for the first time. "Young sailors need to focus on their own stories, not mine." The rejection only fuels public curiosity. Discreet inquiries from military publications receive the same response. Silence. At the transit center, the administrative director notices the surge of military passengers on Route 12. After confirming Thomas's identity through public military records, he arranges for a small bronze plaque to be installed beside the driver bulletin board, dedicated to Commander Griggs, whose silence taught us more than words ever could. Thomas says nothing when he sees it the next morning, though his regular passengers notice he stands straighter, if that were possible. His bus becomes something of a rolling sanctuary. Recruits and officers alike treat it with unexpected reverence, speaking in hushed tones, if they speak at all. They keep it immaculate, sometimes clearing litter left by civilian passengers. One morning, a teenager boards, loudly complaining about the bus's speed while playing music without headphones. "Yo, Grandpa, cannot this thing go any faster? Some of us have places to be." Before Thomas can respond, Harper, now weeks into his training, turns in his seat. "Watch your tone," he says, voice low but commanding. That man bled so you could speak freely. The teenager, startled by both the intervention and the intensity in Harper's eyes, mutters an apology and silences his music. Thomas meets Harper's gaze in the mirror and gives an almost imperceptible nod. The Naval Special Warfare Preparatory School sends a formal invitation asking Thomas to speak at their graduation ceremony. He declines with a brief handwritten note that the school's commanding officer eventually frames and displays in his office. "Some of the best men I knew never made it home. Do not salute me, salute them." A local high school teacher, whose father served in the Navy, develops a curriculum unit called Modern-Day Valor and Silence, focusing on how heroism often continues long after uniforms are put away, even without public acknowledgement. Thomas's presence begins to shift the community's atmosphere. Veterans report being greeted more respectfully in local businesses. Military service becomes a topic of genuine interest rather than obligatory gratitude. On a rainy Tuesday, a distinguished man in a tailored suit boards Bus 12 alone. His bearing immediately marks him as military despite his civilian clothes. Thomas's eyes flicker briefly in recognition. The man, Senator James Morrison, former SEAL and now head of the Armed Services Committee, says nothing. He simply rides the entire route, then places a challenge coin on the dashboard before departing. The coin, a SEAL Team 2 insignia from the era when both men served, remains on Thomas's dashboard thereafter. Harper, now nearing the end of his initial training, keeps a journal with observations about his daily bus rides. "Every day I ride that bus, I learn what discipline looks like in motion." Commander Griggs does not teach with words. He demonstrates with every turn of the wheel, every precisely timed stop, every scan of his mirrors. He is still on patrol, just a different kind. When another recruit asks Thomas directly about his most heroic moment, the old driver's response is characteristically brief. Showing up the next day, he says, "I was always the next day." The recruit frowns, not understanding. Harper explains later. He means courage is not about one big moment. It is about continuing after the moment has passed, getting up and doing what needs doing. Though Thomas never acknowledges the growing reverence around him, his eyes, when they meet those of his military passengers, hold a depth of connection. His silence cannot hide. On a bitter January morning, passengers waiting at the naval base stop are surprised when Bus 12 arrives with a different driver. No explanation is offered. The replacement handles the route well, but the military passengers notice the difference in every detail. The slightly delayed stops, the less careful turns. Thomas's absence stretches to 3 days. Worry ripples through his regular passengers. On the 4th day, Thomas returns, his routine unchanged. He wipes the mirrors, checks the gauges, opens the door. Same boots, same silence. But there is something new. A folded American flag in a triangular display case secured behind his seat. No one asks, they understand. Someone has gone home for the final time. At the back of the bus, Harper removes his cap and holds it against his chest for the duration of the ride. Other military passengers follow suit. No words are exchanged, but Thomas's eyes in the rearview mirror clearly acknowledge their gesture. For 3 more years, Thomas drives Bus 12 with unwavering dedication. His legend grows not through his words, but through his steady presence. Young recruits begin their training, considering a ride on his bus a milestone. When the Transit Authority announces Thomas's retirement, there is no formal event at his explicit request. On his final morning, he arrives to find every seat filled with veterans, active duty personnel, and recruits, all in civilian clothes, but their bearing obvious. The entire 40-minute route passes in complete silence. When Thomas pulls into the transit center for the last time, He finds the small fleet of buses arranged in formation around a newly installed statue in the center of the lot. Heroes do not announce themselves. They drive the route every day. Thomas reads it once, nods almost imperceptibly, and collects his few personal items. As he walks away, the assembled passengers who have quietly exited the bus form a line on either side of his path. No one salutes, no one speaks, but each stands at perfect attention as he passes. At the lot's edge, Harper, now an officer, waits beside a navy blue pickup truck. "Need a ride, Commander?" Thomas pauses, then nods once. "Appreciate it, Lieutenant." A photographer from the base newspaper captures the moment. A weathered man with a duffel bag walking away from a bus, while 20 service members stand in silent respect. The image goes viral within military communities. The caption's simple yet deep. "Commander Thomas Griggs, SEAL Team 2, never needed a stage, just a steering wheel." The legend of the silent bus driver eventually fades from daily conversation, but new recruits at the naval base still hear it during their orientation. Excellence is not about recognition, their instructors tell them. It is about doing what needs to be done when it needs doing, whether anyone notices or not. Just like the man who drove Bus 12.